Due to some technical difficulties, we have to repeat our comments. We were talking about the Canadian Armed Forces, and we saw that the Canadian Armed Forces have been showing great courage, great professionalism, and have been setting up standards both of professionalism in war and also in ethics all over the world, outstanding being the Vimirage, but their operations today are equally great. Any force which shows its capability, which shows professionalism, which brings some credit to the country, is to be praised. But mere lip service is not enough. Remembering them on the Remembrance Day is great. But how do we treat them? That's more important. The treatment of veterans has been shocking to say the least. But look at the serving officers. Veterans everybody has been talking about, though nothing has been done. But look at the serving officers. The bases on which they live every day are shoddy, have substandards in construction. They're 50 years, their armories, their aircraft hangars, their living quarters, all are in need of not only repair and renovation, but need to be rebuilt. Till 2008, the money required to rebuild them $1.1 billion. And do you know the budget allocation for giving them this reasonable standard of life is $200 million. What a travesty, isn't it? We praise them, we sing laurels for them, but when we try and treat them, it's with peanuts. Why? Why is our priority so misplaced? And now let's look at the total expenditure. In Canada, the total expenditure on defense, including the living accommodation, is 1% of GDP. In most of the countries, it ranges from 17% to 38%. The reasonable number should be 10% at least. 15 is ideal, 10 is minimum. And Canada is spending only 1%. This is the issue. Secondly, when we are aware that the backlog requires $1.1 billion, why make a ludicrous allotment of 200 millions, which shall not be able to meet even a fraction of the cost that is required? And not only that, now look at the other part, the records. Do you know that 80% of the records show only blank pages? They are not being kept. Now either they don't have sufficient manpower, or there is no sufficient technology input. Whatever, the lack of proper record keeping, the lack of the basic amenities in the bases, the lack of the proper armories, the lack of the aircraft hangars, the lack of the living conditions, all combine, and the state is a dismal state of affairs. Now, what's the effect of this? Apart from ensuring that these officers both ranks and the officers, cannot have a happy existence. It reflects on their morale. Their morale would be dampened. They are defending the country. They are upholding the values of Canadian society. And the way they are treated shows the dichotomy of thought and action. We laud them, we praise them. But when it comes to the reality, we want to satisfy them with the peanuts. You see, in that way, I would say the example set by the Britishers in the empire was excellent. In each place, they set up special areas called cantonments, which were the places of excellence as far as the infrastructure was concerned, as far as the quality of life was concerned, as far as the services were concerned. And because of that, the forces inherited by present-day India and Pakistan developed such a high degree of professionalism and pride in themselves that they became one of the finest fighting forces, both of them. Now, I'm not denying the fact that the Canadian forces are no less fighting force. But the gnawing sense of insecurity and the gnawing sense of not being given justice is extremely dampening the spirits. They may not cry because they are disciplined. They may not protest because they are decent, disciplined soldiers and do not believe in protests. But the very fact that they don't ask for it, does it mean that we should deprive them from what should be done? If I look at Borden and compare it with a cantonment in India, I am shocked. I am shocked for the simple reason the amenities, the luxuries, the comforts that are provided to the armed forces in those cantonments are far superior than available to the civilians outside. And as a matter of fact, in many places, people deem it a privilege to live in the cantonments, even the civilians. Would it happen in a place like Canada, in any of the bases? No. Now the question that faces us is, are we using our armed forces only as a bulwark against war? No. Our forces are multidimensional, and as such, they are used, can be used against war in the case of war, but they are also peacekeeping forces. And their contribution globe over as peacekeeping forces has been utilized, praised out of proportion. Secondly, in times of emergencies and disasters, natural disasters or man-made disasters, their role is great, to say the least, praiseworthy, to be partial, but I would say it is one of the most humanizing roles ever played by any fighting force. I'm aware that the armed forces all over the world come to the assistance of the civil authorities in the times of need. But the way Canadian forces render humanistic service to the countrymen and to the world at large. There was an earthquake in Pakistan, and Canadian Armed Forces and the DART teams were the first to reach there. There was an oil well fire And the DAR team and the Kenny force were there in Hyderabad, in India, East India. So what else do we want? The bare minimum is to give them a modicum of civilized life. I would not say equal to, but at least a bit better than their counterparts in the civilian life has. You know, the hazards of their existence, the short career that they have, calls for some compensation. Have you ever noticed that why there is not a craze in the Canadians to join the armed forces? It is simply because of the lack of the amenities and the facilities. The bases, if you have visited them and compared them with the bases the globe over, you would be amazed. They need much improvement, and what the government says that they needed 1.1 billion at the end of 2008, must be about 1.5 billion by now. The government hasn't come up with the latest figures as yet. But the fact that we need a lot of money, then it's a time to spend it. We have given $500 million, more than $500 million actually, for the refugees. Don't give it. We have given to the people all over the world. We are giving it. Again, I am coming to that. Our priorities are absolutely wrong, unacceptable, and need to be changed. Tell me, why is it that why we are doing everything for all the parts of the world, we are neglecting our native Canadians and our armed forces? Do you know the infrastructure and the bases in Canada are 50 years old? Most of them have lived their life out. And I was amazed when the refugees came, the Syrian refugees came. These very bases were updated in a very luxurious mode to accommodate those refugees. Why could we not show that sense of urgency for our own forces? The refugees who do not expect to be pampered were pampered like what they say in South Asia, son-in-laws. Yeah. But here, our own forces, the darlings of the nation, the protectors of the nation, the keepers of the peace all over the world, are treated like stepchildren. They are disciplined, so they do not demand. They are disciplined, so they do not protest. But that should not be that attitude, that uncomplaining capability should not be abused. As a matter of fact, that should be amply rewarded. And today there's need to do it. That would do two things. One, enhance the morale of the armed forces. B, attract more people to the armed forces. C, give them courage to operate without a worry in the heart about their families and about other facilities that might not be available to them today, but they are needed. Again, our defense minister and the cabinet needs to reappraise the priorities and ensure that the armed forces do not suffer from the apathy of the politicians or the greed of the others. Give to the Romans what they deserve. Give to God what's God and to Caesar what is Caesar. Here, we are given to the world what it doesn't deserve many times, and we don't give to the armed forces what it deserves many times. Let this imbalance be set right, and let it be set right today, now. Don't make it an issue of resentment, of people not saying it, but they are human beings. They may not say it, they feel it. So again, this issue needs to be tackled as priority number one, right now, right today, without any further delay. Thank you.